We start this evening there. The FTX founder, known in the cryptocurrency world as SBF, has already been concerning himself with the SEC and the CFTC. And now he's got 3 more letters to manage. DOJ, the Department of Justice. Prosecutors formally charged Sam Bankman-Fried with 8 counts Tuesday, one day after he was arrested in the Bahamas. 6 of those charges are various forms of fraud or conspiracy to commit fraud. The Justice Department also accuses him of trying to launder money and attempting to defraud the federal government by violating campaign finance law. Scott MacFarlane has more from Capitol Hill.
Inside a heavily secured courthouse in the Bahamas this morning, 30-year-old Sam Bankman-Fried, arrested and disgraced, was denied bail and signaled he'd fight extradition to the U.S.
This is one of the biggest financial frauds in American history,
where the Justice Department charged Bankman-Fried with numerous financial crimes, including wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering. Bankman-Fried's company, FTX, based in the Bahamas and promoted by top celebrities, was worth $32 billion in January before a run on the company gutted it, leaving its founder worth just more than $100,000. His customers lost $8 billion. Everin Luthra was one of them, telling CBS News he's $2 million in the hole.
I'm pissed off about being scammed and by losing my money through a scam and a fraud.
I didn't knowingly commit fraud. I don't think I committed fraud.
2 days before his arrest, Bankman-Fried was asked if he thought he'd be arrested.
I don't think I will be.
The FTX founder was scheduled to testify this morning on Capitol Hill. Instead, the company's current CEO, brought in to right the ship, described a shockingly unsophisticated organization with no accountants and where expenses were approved by emoji.
There was no sophistication whatsoever. There was an absence of any management.
And Scott MacFarlane joins me now from Capitol Hill. Scott, when charges were brought against Sam Bankman-Fried, it was called one of the biggest frauds in American history. America has a history of big frauds. So explain, if you can, the gravity of the charges against Sam Bankman-Fried.
These are 8 federal charges, including fraud. And John, what's described in the federal court documents is just a new variation of fraud, where he's using this different platform, where he's using a different method in a new economy. But according to the prosecutors, not only did he engage in fraud in running this FTX company, they say he also violated campaign finance law, using millions of dollars in customer funds to make unlawful campaign contributions to members of both political parties, trying to influence the regulation of cryptocurrency. It's a multi-layered set of accusations, but at the congressional hearing today into this very topic, the new CEO of FTX, the one who's trying to salvage it from bankruptcy, said there's nothing sophisticated about it, said it was just old school embezzlement.
So old wine in new bottles. As you said, the FTX CEO said there was can you just elaborate a little bit more on what he said? I mean, this in terms of it being old school, he went through a kind of a long list of problems with the company.
Yes, and keeping in mind, he was alone at that witness table today. He was supposed to be joined by Sam Bankman-Fried, who obviously was unavailable for the congressional hearing. What John Ray said was that there wasn't an elaborate set or sophisticated set of schemes, according to his review of this company, that what was happening was unsophisticated, and to a degree, he was arguing it was juvenile, that sometimes there wasn't the use of an accountant, that things were approved with the use of an emoji versus, the written word or a verbal call. He painted this picture of almost a, pardon the expression, a romper room type operation that wasn't mature enough and wasn't sophisticated. It was just old school cheating, he said.
Wow. Okay. So now to your other area of expertise, which is the January 6th committee. The committee will hold its final public meeting on Monday. Can you, and then, of course, issue a report? First of all, I thought we already had the final hearing, so now this is a new final hearing. So what should we expect to see in this next hearing?
There's a lot of goalposts moving with deadlines and dates with this committee, and this is the first committee of its sort doing an unprecedented thing, so they're asking for a little bit of leeway as they move their schedules. So they're going to have what they may characterize as a meeting or a public-facing event, not a hearing with witnesses or an investigative hearing, but more of a presentation of something. Is it going to be the criminal referrals? We are expecting some number of criminal referrals from this panel, recommendations that someone or some people be charged in connection with the attempt to overthrow the results of the 2020 election and the U.S. Capitol attack. That meeting now set for Monday. They had forecast the meeting was going to happen Wednesday, December 21st. That is still the date they seem to be indicating will be the home of that final written report, kind of their valedictory, a comprehensive look of all their findings, 8 chapters worth from this unparalleled 18 months of investigating.
And very briefly, Scott, there's still a negotiation going on about how to fund the government in order to avoid a potential government shutdown before the new year. Can you give us a quick update on what's happening with that?
The deadline was Friday. There are more people who believe in Santa Claus than believe that that Friday deadline is going to be met by this Congress. They're going to likely push that back a week or so, at least a few days, to keep the negotiations going. The question now is, will they get a long-term, a year-long deal to fund the government, or will they really just kick it into the next Congress by weeks or months? That might give Republicans some new leverage because they, of course, take control of the House in January, and this could be a big negotiating tool for them.
All right, Scott MacFarlane on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thank you.